Hello and welcome back, and today I'm going to be showing you some of the main jobs that you can do in the month of July, because today is the 1st of July and I can't believe it's July already. The weather doesn't look like July, but it is, unfortunately, and it doesn't look like we're going to get a very sunny start of July at least. So what I'm doing here is I'm just planting out, and that's one of the first things that you can do in the month of June, which is to plant out the seedlings and plants that you prepared earlier in the year. And the main bulk of this would be brassicas, and I've just planted out all my brassicas last week. But what this is it's a neighbour gave it to me. It's mallow, I think it is, and you can tell it's gotten too big for its pot now because I kept it in my greenhouse for a bit. It's got some yellowing leaves, which means it's ready to be planted out. So I'm just going to plant this out here. Now these plants I believe get quite big, so I'm going to plant it right at the back of the border so it adds a bit of height as it goes along. And as you can see, this soil here is quite good in this flower border. Yeah, the soil's quite good here. Sorry I couldn't find the camera with my hands then, but if you see any plants here, or in the rest of the border as well, little baby plants like this some here, that's because this used to be forget-me-not here and it's just died down for the summer, and it's self-seeded everywhere, which is good because you get a free display of flowers then. Now look, I told you it was ready to be planted out, and that's because the telltale sign. So you crunch the roots, put it in, and there we are, planting. It's one of the biggest jobs you can do in June with your brassicas. And now on to the next job that you can do this month. And if you kept on top of it for the last 2 months, then weeding shouldn't be a big problem with you. But just use a hoe like this and just have a quick scrape around in all the beds. Just try and get any of the young weeds out there before they get too big and become a problem in years to come. And my flower borders, I sort of neglected them a bit for the last month, I'd be honest. So I'm just having a quick weed around now. But the rest of the vegetable patch is generally okay because I go every day or two with a hoe like this, a Dutch hoe, and I just have a quick cut the roots of the weeds and it stops them growing, which is the best way to do it, is little and often. And another thing that you can do this month is to take cuttings. And I know in a lot of videos recently I've been taking cuttings, but here are some examples of what I'm taking cutting of. I've got some wallflowers here. This is a perennial wallflower I take cuttings from. But the thing with perennial wallflowers is after a few years they tend to get a bit leggy and they don't look that great. So I've taken 4 cuttings here, and when they root I'll put them on into their own individual pots. And you may notice as well that I've cut most of the length of the big leaves off, and this prevents water loss when they're bigger because there's less stomata on them. And remember to take a leaf cutting rather than a flower cutting with wallflowers. So take one where the new growth is going to be leaves and not flower buds. And then also there's this, which is some rosemary, and I've got one cutting here and another cutting here that I'm going to give to a nice neighbour we've got. And because theirs has just died, and mine's doing quite well actually, so I took cuttings from it, one for us and one for someone else. And that's the thing with gardening, you should always help each other out. So if you have any plants or anything you can take a cutting from that a neighbour may want, you could save them a bit of money by taking a cutting from yours and giving them your plant. And something quite interesting that most people may not know is I've been taking cuttings from my tomatoes, and these, as you may have known from my free plants video, every hair on a tomato is a potential root, and when it gets in contact with water regularly and is in good humidity, it will create those roots that are there ready to become roots basically. And these are just some side shoots or suckers that were on the top of my tomatoes, and I've taken them out, put them in some peat free compost. I've got 2 of them. These are a dry gork, so hopefully they'll give us a small crop at the end of the summer. And what I'll keep doing is keep taking cuttings and then I'll have plants next year without having to sow seeds. So I'll overwinter them in a windowsill, or maybe in this greenhouse with some bubble wrap over them. So I'd just like to take this time out of the video to make sure that you've gone down below, hit the subscribe button, as well as the little bell icon, and clicked all on the notifications. And what this means is that you'll be notified every time I upload a new gardening video with loads of great gardening tips just like this one. And something that you should get in a habit of is taking off damaged and yellowing brassica leaves, because they're no longer doing any good for the plant. So I've got some kohlrabi here, and there's some slug damage on that one. I'm just putting them in a bucket, and I'll put that in the compost afterwards. And otherwise, if you don't do this, this will attract things like slugs and caterpillars, which will inevitably destroy your crop. And you can do this with a good sharp clean pair of scissors, or you can just do it by snapping off gently with 2 hands, but be careful you don't snap the stem when they're young. And don't worry too much with sprouts. If you remove the leaves, it doesn't mean the sprouts aren't going to grow, because you know sprouts they grow from the leaf node. But there's no need to worry about this, because when you remove a leaf on a sprout, the leaf node's still there, so the sprout still grows, and it actually makes harvesting a bit easier, in my opinion. And whilst you're here, you can just pull out the odd weed and things if you see them, and it saves you work later on then. These, I've got some Swedes here as well, but they seem to be fine for now. I've also got some calabrese broccoli type thing in there, but it's not doing too well, so I haven't got high hopes for that. And I've got some elsewhere in the garden as well. There's some more. This is the kind of leaf you could be dealing with, is just broken, eaten by slugs and caterpillars. This one has got, actually it's got leaf miner damage on it, so I've taken that one off as well. And if not at the start, then definitely by the end of July, most things in your garden will start producing you food, like on a regular basis. So I've got these black currants here, and I've been picking these slightly unripe because they split otherwise and all the seeds go everywhere, and they're not really usable for things like jam like I want. But everything will be starting to produce. I've got flowers on this small baby courgette here, and I've also got courgettes producing over on the other end of my garden, which is really exciting. And I've also got mange too, but make sure you wait until the end of this video, where I will be showing you everything that I've got ready to be harvested in my garden soon. Also in July, you'll need to keep on top of watering, so often it's quite a warm, maybe even dry month, so you've got to keep on top of it. And at the moment, I don't really need to, because it's been pouring with rain most days, so it's fine at the moment. But when it does get dry, make sure you do water, and don't forget your greenhouse. A lot of people do this mistake where they think if it's rain they don't have to water, but a greenhouse is undercover, so you just don't forget that one. That's a mistake that I've made many times. And something else that you can do is plant or sow your winter and autumn salads. So this could be like autumn king carrots and winter imperial lettuce. I've still got Tom Thumb lettuce ready in my bed here, in the flower bed actually, but the rest has gone to seed. But in here it's quite shaded, so things stay for longer. For example, this kale here, it's gotten quite big and it's all branched out, and that's actually over a year old now, and that's something that should be an annual, so I'm turning that into a perennial, and we're still harvesting the middle of, or the crown of that, for salad, all the fresh growth, which is a really good way of doing it. Is plant something that normally bolts in the shade, because the shade then will keep it cooler and it won't bolt. So yeah, all these lettuce, they'll be fine for another few weeks, I think. Some of them have gone to bolt, but that's fine really, it's inevitable. I'm going to start planting some more lettuce soon in module trays, and I'm going to keep these in like a shaded spot under some big leaves, because I'm fed up with them all bolting all the time. I might even try and grow some cut and come again in a pot. And something that you can do at this time of year is you can still be mulching. So this is about 2 or 3 months old, this grass clipping mulch now, so it's quite dry and quite thin. Most of it's incorporated, and you can see it's gone like a rich soil colour, and that's a really good sign. But yeah, so this, what you can do then is if it's in thick layers, you can lift it and either turn it, unless it's a compost mulch, which is okay because that's the no dig. But with mulches like this, you can just sort of go and sprinkle them lightly back over the ground where it may have taken it away, and then you just sprinkle that on to rot back down. And this prevents slugs hiding underneath. It's doing thin layers of mulches. So maybe do like an inch of mulch around different plants. So I've recently done some old potting compost around some sprouts, I think, and some old homemade compost. I made a new bed, a new no-dig bed, where I cut all the plants down and I put a thick layer of homemade compost on, and then I put old compost bags over the top to get the worms in there and heat up the soil. It got the worms in, and it was full of life, that soil. When I took those bags off, and then I planted it up with some multi-sown beetroot between some sprout seedlings, and that's actually doing really well now, so I'll show you that in a minute. And so now I'm going to talk to you about some of the things I've got ready to eat and ready to use in the house, in the garden. So firstly, I've got a lot of sweet peas, which we're picking quite regularly every few days to put in a vase in the living room, which brightens it up. And I've also got some salad still ready, which has been ready for the last few months actually. I've also got some soft fruit, like the black currants, white currants, raspberries and strawberries. They're all ready, which are really tasty. And I recently made about 2 kilograms of jam from my raspberries, and we've got all that in jars in the cupboard now, ready for the time when we can't harvest it, like in winter. I've also got some mange too, which will be ready in a week or two, and I can't wait for that. I've never actually grown mange too, but I just love mange too, and it's some purple podded variety called Shiraz, which I'm really excited for. I've also got some potatoes that are ready, so I've been picking regularly now, as you'll know from my recent videos. But I've got another bucket that's nearly ready now. It's also got some early blight on it, but I think that'll be fine. And we're also picking some kale, some young leaved kale. And a good sign, sorry if there's a bee, if you can hear it. Another good thing with picking kale is don't pick the older outer leaves, because they're more tough and they've got a not as nice taste. Pick the young ones from the crown, and once you've picked the whole crown, then what will happen is the plant will send up new branches out the side, as is happened with the kale I showed you in my flower bed, that it sent branches out with fresh younger leaves. So just pick out the crown first, and then it'll send out more young growth. We've also got peppers setting. Some of the fruit has dropped off because of a rapid change in temperature and conditions, but for the most part some of them are staying on. I don't think I've had any peppers last year because the plant just died because it got suffocated by the other plants. So hopefully this year we'll have some nice peppers straight from the greenhouse. I've also got my courgettes flowering, as you saw, and my cucumbers are starting to produce as well. And I've got a great video about cucumbers if you'd like to see it that I uploaded recently. And then I've also got some kohlrabi, which is going to be ready again in another week or two. So my garden's not in its full potential yet, but in about 2 to 3 weeks I reckon it'll be in full production, and all systems will be go. We'll be eating all the food from our garden. And lastly, something that's looking quite nice in my garden at the moment, and the bees are loving, are the rose hips. And these do make some supposedly tasty fruits, but I've never cooked with them before, so we'll have to give it a go this year. Maybe make some hedgerow jelly, but I'm not sure, so I'm gonna have to look into that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope these jobs will keep you busy through July. If you did enjoy, please like, comment and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.